So here's my lathe. That's the headstock. It's made of a connector attached to the shaft with a threaded stock point on it. That's the tailstock. It's again a threaded stock, 5/8 11 threaded stock with a connector on it with a piece of shaped threaded stock with a point on it. That's the drive system. It's a 3-pulley system. Allows me to run from low speed to high speed. Just shift the belt from one side of the pulleys to the other. Right now it's set in low speed. I put it on high speed, it's pretty darn fast. That's a power control box there. Basically an on-off switch and some variation in the speed control there. I can turn it down about 10%. If I can turn it down much further, power supply, it just stops running. That old motor can't take much variation like that in voltage. It's basically just a box with pulleys on it or the bearings on it to allow me to make a lathe out of this system. That's the tool rest. As you'll see, the tool I use, I have to have it supported, and that's what does the support. That's my vise mounted back there. There's the tool. It's pretty makeshift. It's not anything fancy, and it doesn't really work very well, but I had to have something to show you what this lathe can do. So I made it out of a piece of tool from my machine shop days, and it's not really very good for the wood. It's not the right configuration of the tip, so it's not cutting chips very good. But it is moving some stock, so you can see it's able to do the job that I've designed it for. It's just I got a lot of tweaking to do. The tailstock keeps moving back. Right now it's because I don't have any lock nuts on it. And in the next segment of the video I'll modify that and fix it, but the base itself actually slips in the slot on the lathe bed, so I ended up having to put some sandpaper between the two surfaces, and then when I crank it down with a tightening knob, the adjusting knob, it's pretty secure. I'll show you some pictures of some stuff I did after this video that are pretty cool. I'm actually going to make a chess set. Let's move with some stock. You can see once I get it stable, it'll do a pretty good job, and after this video I made it very stable, so it's doing a nice job. I'm just explaining there that the tool is not very good for this job. Did a whole lot of carpentry on this lathe and a little bit of welding. It was a pretty fun project, and I'm really enjoying using it and doing things with it. So yeah, that's the headstock. It's made out of 3 pieces of 3/4 inch birch plywood. It's pretty strong. They're glued together as well as screwed together. And then I've got some brass inserts in there to hold a 3/16 or 3/8 threaded rod that actually acts to hold the stock. That's a pretty sound and stable tool, and it definitely adds safety and stability to my setup. So I'm pretty pleased with it. The stock that's how you center drill the ends of the stock, so it's got something to grip onto and something to rest on. It just spins on the tool, on the spindle. It's threaded in there, spins onto the spindle. The spindle, as it's turning and as the lathe actually runs, it's running towards me, and the tool spins onto the spindle counterclockwise, so they actually force each other to tighten up as it's running. So I don't have to worry about that flying loose and hitting me. It's not gonna ever. Loosen those screws up a little bit and fit that stock in there against the point, and then tighten it back up. And then turn the tailstock into it so it's secured at both ends. That's how that works. Sorry, I'm trying to record this and do stuff. I've only got two hands, so the video is a little choppy. That's the only locking nut I've got on my tailstock at this point, so it's not going to do a very good job because it's got way too many places that it can move. The point's in an insert and a connector, and that's not secured down. It's just threaded in there, and the connector itself is just threaded to the, connected to the threaded stock of the tailstock. It's not secured down. There's no stop nut on it. So just about as soon as I start running it, the vibration works it loose, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. I try and machine this. It doesn't work very well. I'm lucky it didn't fly right off of there. Go cattywampus and tear up my headstock. Okay, that's how I do the pulley speed change. Just unhook that latch and lift it up and switch the belts over and latch her back down. It's pretty cool. It took me a while to figure this out, but it's a very effective system. Before, I was using a couple of screwdrivers trying to pry it around from one thing to the other. I didn't like how that went. That was pretty iffy on my fingers, and I was worried I was eventually going to bend a shaft or destroy a pulley or tear up my belt. So I figured this thing to just knee up and get out of the way so I can move belts. It takes a lot of lube. I've gone through like a half a can of 3-in-1 oil in just a week. If I don't oil it, it'll overheat and start smoking and stop running, and it's kind of scary. So yeah, it's on high speed now, man. It sounds like it's going to take off. I was a little bit scared to put a tool to that stock when I first started up because it's quite a hum. But it's also much more stable. The momentum and the inertia of the rotation, it helps center it better than when it's running on slow speed. It's a lot easier to take cuts on it when it's at high speed. So but it's still not a stable tailstock, so it still wants to bounce around a little bit. It'll get better. I'll add some nuts in this next segment. You'll see what I'm talking about. See how loose that is? It shouldn't have been running at all that loose. It's just going to push itself back again. There's so much vibration in it when there's no nuts on it to lock it down. There you go. See how I added nuts ahead of and behind the connector? Now it's stable. It's not going anywhere, except it's still pushing the whole tailstock back because I haven't had sandpaper to to the table surface. I'm adding oil. I don't want to burn that motor up. It's been around too long. Powerful little bugger. Now that motor is stamped with a number that says 928, and having researched it, that's a code for its manufacturing date. You see there, 928 on that brass tag. That means it was built in September of 1928. So I'm sure Grandpa bought a washing machine about then and used it until it was done, and then took the motor off. Used it to polish shoes for decades, I guess. I guess Dad used to do that when he was a boy on that motor, so. Then he inherited it and turned it into a grinding wheel, and now I've got it and I've turned it into a lathe, so it's kind of cool how much change it's gone through, and yet how much it's still the same old motor. I'll probably have to get it fixed one of these days, probably rewired or rebuilt. Yeah, you can see it's doing a little bit smoother job now that it's higher speed. It's still loose. Gotta tighten that up good. In case you're wondering, I did wrap my knuckles with that threaded stock sticking out of that, but it's going so damn fast it pushed my hand right out of the way, so. And it just glanced it. Didn't cut me or anything. But I don't want to do that again. I may actually make a shield for it so it's out of the way, so I can't really bump up against it. That would be the smart thing to do. But I love how true this thing is. It took me a long time to figure out the bearing configuration. So it didn't run true, but it runs pretty true. See how that's cutting better now? That's still a pretty shitty piece of tooling, but I made some good ones out of screwdrivers. It cuts really nice now. Cutting tool makes a big difference. I'm going to make some more tools, jigs for it. One's called a steady rest. It's actually wraps around the stock like a collar, and I don't have to have the tail stock anymore. That's for working into the stock from the end. Keeps it stable so it doesn't fly off one way or the other. I'm pretty pleased with this lathe as it is, as it works, as I work on it. Tighten that up really good. And you actually should use both hands to control the tool. One's to act as a stabilizing element and a pivot point, and then the other hand to move the tool along the surface. Doing it one hand is kind of dumb. Just See what a nice transition it made there? That's pretty nice. And it gets even better with a good cutting tool. So that's my lathe. You said you wanted to see it run, and it's running. It'll get better over time. Take the wonkiness out of it by fixing that tailstock and coming up with some other jigs to work on it. So I love you. Talk to you later. Hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out, buddy.